Saw dudes, because I just released a Caliban rework video, I wanted to stress test it against level cap enemies. So I set out to avoid Cascade and was pleasantly surprised at how well the new iteration of the frame can handle high difficulty content. I will say that my gameplay is suboptimal since my weapon choice was not the greatest. That being said, it means that my setup has a lot of room for improvement, so this isn't the end for a full loadout. Without further delay, let's get started. The Caliban build I used is the same one that I featured in my previous video. Growing power is useful for increasing the efficacy of all of Caliban's abilities. It's important for increasing enemy damage vulnerability, shields refunded from Razor Gyre, shields supplied by lethal progeny, and the damage or defense strip from Fusion Strike. Cunning Drift increases range and slide distance, which is great for map traversal. Prime Continuity increases ability duration, which improves Caliban's 2, 3, and 4. Prime Flow increases the energy cap for ability spamming. Blind Rage and Umbrella Intensify work in the same way as Growing Power, increasing ability effectiveness. Overextended and Stretch increase the effective range of Razor Gyre, Sentient Wrath, and Fusion Strike. Rolling Guard is a failsafe in case we run out of energy or need a status cleanse. Equilibrium is used to pad out energy economy and is used in conjunction with Synth Deconstruct. The Arcanes are up to preference, but for this build I used Arcane Avenger and Molt Augmented. The extra flat crit chance is great for most weapons and is a nice bonus to scale status weapons, hint hint. Molt Augmented is for a basic damage increase but can be substituted for another Arcane if you would like. To be honest, this can be swapped for a weapon-specific arcane to further increase damage. The Archon Shards are experimental. I used 2 Talforged Crimson Shards for a combined 75% bonus primary weapon status chance. Since Caliban is so focused on buffing status application, I saw this as a great opportunity to experiment. This is not optimal, but it is fun. The other 2 Talforged Crimson Shards were used for strength. A casting speed shard was used to take up the final slot for ease of use. My primary weapon was Phenmor, which in hindsight was a horrible idea. The Incarnon perks I used are Void's Guidance, Retribution's Vessel, Elemental Excess, and Devouring Attrition. This is an anti-crit build, which is horrible since I had Arcane Avenger equipped. Anyways, I had Galvanized Chamber, Galvanized Aptitude, Vigilante Armament, Rhyme Round, Prime Shred, Fang Fusillade, Malignant Force, and Rifle Elementalist as my mods. Keep in mind that I left Malignant Force unranked to not skew status procs for viral. We want to preserve the high slash weight for damage over time. I used Primary Merciless, since kills will be done with slash procs. The secondary I chose to use was the Kuva Nukor with a Magnetic Progenitor. This, unlike the Phenmor, was an excellent choice, given its high critical multiplier and low critical chance. The mods I used were Galvanized Diffusion, Galvanized Shot, Prime Target Cracker, Prime Pistol Gambit, Lethal Torrent, Scorch, Prime Heated Charge, and Pistol Elementalist with Ruinous Extension in the Exile slot. The arcane I chose to use was Cascadia Flare for enhanced damage without the need for kills. Old habits die hard. I used Praedos as my go-to melee weapon this time around. The Incarnon perks I chose to use are Drifting Grace, Shockwave Synergy, Evolved Ascension, and Universal Readiness. The stance mod is Sovereign Outcast, since it carries insane multipliers and good mobility. Dreamer's Wrath is the preferred Tennokai mod, however, if you don't have it, don't worry about it too much. We then have Primed Reach for ease of use, Blood Rush for crit scaling, Weeping Wounds for slash proc application, and Conditioned Overload to buff hits with priming. Galvanized Elementalist increases slash proc damage and status chance on kill. Prime Fury makes Praedos a blender and increases quality of life. Galvanized Steel increases crit chance by a flattened amount and increases critical damage on kill. Organ Shatter increases crit damage again. The arcane I chose to run was Melee Duplicate, although you can likely use Melee Animosity and get a very similar result. Finally, we have the Panzer build. The most notable parts of the build are Synth Deconstruct, Viral Quills, Tenacious Bond, and Reinforced Bond. Synth Deconstruct creates health orbs which get converted to energy via equilibrium. Viral Quills primes enemies with Viral, boosting our outgoing slash or heat damage. Tenacious Bond increases our final critical multiplier, and Reinforced Bond increases our fire rate. This companion serves as a cherry on top for our outgoing damage. You'll notice that Bite is no longer in the top right slot, since some companions now have a dedicated modding page for their weapon, or claws. That slot can be occupied by another mod of your choice, like Tech Assault, for extra companion survivability. The Panzer Claw build is a bit embarrassing since I haven't had time to mess around with it all that much. All I have is balanced posture, bite, and swipe. I swear I'll get around to it another time, but for now, it's not a deal breaker. The focus school is Madurai since you need to one-shot Thrax units, and will need Void Strike occasionally. I know you might be tempted to use Enric, but you won't need it because Razor Gyre refunds a ton of energy, and it's not worth it, especially in Void Cascade. Try using energy pads if you run out of energy, or just use Arcane Energize. The amp I used was the standard 147, or Sturgis Brace, Rat Black Prism, and Fat Scaffold. This has been my go-to for months now, and I highly recommend it if you can withstand the reputation grind. I use Magus Cloud, Magus Lockdown, Eternal Eradicate, and Eternal Onslaught as my operator arcanes. Time to talk about the run. Let's cover Caliban first, then work down. This frame did a complete 180 and is now a powerhouse. After running him through the hardest content I know and doing well despite player error, he is undeniably strong. His first ability is cracked and is likely one of the best survivability tools to grace our hands. It returns energy on hit, heals you, provides shields and overshields, applies Tau status, and can be used as a movement tool. It's an emergency button that you can spam and have no worries about. His 2, Sentient Wrath, is great for increasing the status damage you are outputting and provides another layer of crowd control. This is great for survivability and slowing down the fight enough so you can fire your guns into groups of enemies. Lethal Progeny is great for taking enemy aggro and just providing extra support. Conculus are nice for dealing decent damage to lower level Steel Path and can help nuke rooms with their tornado attacks and disco dances. Ortholis can increase the damage of weapons by applying 10 stacks of Tau status quickly. This is useful for weapons that can leverage heat, slash, toxin, or electric damage. And we can't forget about the Sumulist and Corliss, which have the highest start level, allowing you to quickly regen shields and get back on even footing. Fusion Strike is a complete defense strip ability, meaning it's useful against nearly all enemy types. Removing shields and armor is a godsend, especially in level cap Omnia missions. Plus, this has much more effective range than Thero Strike and is easier to use than Pillage. I think Caliban's main value comes from his pseudo support role. His main passive increases the survivability of teammates, acting like a mini adaptation mod. This won't really help you in level cap, where one shot means an instant shield drop or death, but in lower levels this is great. You can help Baby Tenno with boss fights just by existing. The same can be said about his application of Tau status. Teammates will apply more status procs to enemies with Tau status applied, increasing the whole team's damage output. Combined with the defense strip from Fusion Strike and damage vulnerability debuff from Sentient Wrath, Caliban becomes one of the best off-meta support frames. This run was easily one of my worst when it came to overall planning. Phenmor is notoriously known for being an anti-crit weapon, so my choice to bring it was unironically just dumb. Kuva Nukor was a good choice given Caliban's strength and the inclusion of Arcane Avenger. Praedos was a decent choice, but other weapons could have been just as good, if not better. Even with those issues considered, it was a pretty okay test. Caliban's ability to make weapons better and survive the worst conditions is something to be recognized. It's not like you need to micromanage much either, since his kit is straightforward. At the end of the day, I would place Caliban as a solid A tier frame. He has buffs for the entire team and debuffs enemies simultaneously, all in a player-friendly package. I hope this video helped. Let me know what you think in the comments. As always, thank you for watching and happy farming. Stay safe.
fertilizer spent.